Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm the GM, your host, and today we're talking about a Titan Nevermore, which was a first edition DC Heroes adventure for the Titans, published in 1985 by Mayfair Games. In our version, player characters for this one the current Batman, aka Dick Grayson, Changeling, aka Garfield Logan, formerly known as Beast Boy, Cyborg, aka Vic Stone, Jericho, aka Joseph Wilson, Starfire, whose name on Tamaran was Coriander, but on Earth she goes by the name Corey Anders, and finally, one of the Wonder Women, who was Donna Troy. But before we get into it, hit like, subscribe, and comment. We've got an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place in Cayleyville, Connecticut in 1985 at the Dyer Bennett Institute, which is run by Dr. Carla Van Horst and Dr. Conrad Getson. To the outside world, the Dyer Bennett Institute seems normal enough. But what the general public does not know is that Dr. Van Horst and Dr. Getson are part of a secret cult that worships the extra dimensional demon known as Shar Ishkigal. The cult has one goal to free Shar Ishkigal from the demi dimension where it is imprisoned. And Van Horst and Getson have come very close to freeing the demon. In their experiments at the Dyer Bennett Institute, Van Horst and Getson have found ways to get to other points within this dimension. One of these experiments opened a portal to the Vegan system, where a curious alien named Geusra was dismayed to find himself transported to Earth. He belonged to a race known as the Scions, and his technological expertise helped the doctors accelerate their plans. Goals that would have once taken years to accomplish would now take mere hours. When Trigon was slain by his daughter Raven, a mystic who was once one of the Titans, the amount of mystical energy involved in this battle was tremendous. Van Horst, a mystic herself, sensed this power and understood what it meant. She used her magical abilities to trap the spirit of Raven inside a vessel originally meant to contain energy from Sharishkagal. The use of Raven's energy enabled the experiments to progress much more rapidly. However, their experiments still could not get them between dimensions to the demi-dimension where Sharishkagal waited. A vibrational modulator that could achieve hyperlight speeds was needed. Unfortunately, all experiments with the modulator failed. There was only one way to modulate Raven's energy to pierce the dimensional barriers through the body of someone with super speed, like one of the Supermen or a member of the Flash family. So, by scanning Raven's memories, they became aware of the Tornado Twins, Barry Allen's daughter, Dawn, and Barry's son, Donald. They convince Donald Allen, the male Kid Flash, that his powers are killing him. So he and his girlfriend, Magenta, aka Frances Kane, go to the Dyer Bennett Institute, which has a reputation for specializing in hyperkinetics, specifically stabilizing organic and inorganic materials that travel at speeds that approach the speed of light. The directors of the Dyer Bennett Institute wrote to Donald telling him that they could find a way to cure his ailment brought about by his super speed. Eager for a cure, he and Magenta traveled to Caleyville to the Dyer Bennett Institute. They spent time there undergoing a series of tests. As the doctors worked on developing a treatment, Magenta became curious about the Institute's other studies. For one thing, why did they need all the armed guards? Dr. Van Horst did not appreciate the curiosity, so she hired a pair of super-powered mercenaries named Prairie Fire and Truncheon to contain Donnie and Francis. When Francis told Donnie of her concerns, he hastily penned an innocuous postcard to Dick Grayson, aka Batman, just in case, and gave the postcard to Francis to mail. She never got to the post office, though. Francis left the Institute under the suspicious eye of Dr. Carla Van Horst, who told Prairie Fire to stop her. Using her magnetic powers, Francis popped a manhole cover out of a street and clutched onto it, flew to Titan Towers. Prairie Fire followed close behind, shooting bolts of flame. Francis was hurt badly and barely made it back to Titan's tower. Once Prairie Fire realized that Francis would make it to the tower, she turned away, fleeing back to the Institute. The escape of Francis Kane further alarmed Van Horst. She hired Deathstroke the Terminator to help protect the Institute. However, the doctors did not tell the Terminator that they were holding Raven and the male Kid Flash. Which brings us to the main plot, which takes place at Titan's Tower on an average Friday morning at 8 o'clock a.m. Cyborg is in the computer room running some tests. Donna Troy is flipping through Japanese photography magazines looking for ideas. And Jericho is in his room painting. Starfire and Dick Grayson are spending time with their daughter, Mari Grayson, spelled M-A-R apostrophe I. We see her in the 1996 Kingdom Come miniseries going by the name Nightstar. Anyways, so point being, Changeling, the hero formerly known as Beast Boy, is on monitor duty. And on the scanners, he sees Francis Kane flying low over the water towards the tower, clutching a manhole cover, being pursued by a flying woman in a brown and yellow costume. Francis doesn't look good. Her clothes and hair are singed and she's covered with burns. She looks as though she'll pass out soon. The costume woman thrusts her arms forward and a stream of flame shoots towards Francis. Magenta dodges the flame, but her power is weakening. She falls towards Titan's tower. The costume woman suddenly pulls up and turns away, streaking towards the city. The sensors lose her as she weaves through the forest of buildings. Francis lands hard on the ground in front of Titan's tower and collapses. So Changeling sounds the alarm and the Titans run out front, where they see Francis Kane sprawled 3/4 of the way through the front door. She manages to pull herself up by one elbow and she says in a halting manner, "Must go save Don." She then passes out. She grips a singed postcard in her right hand. It's addressed to Dick Grayson and says, "Things are improving. I think I'm getting better. I wish you guys could be here. Something really big is going to happen on Saturday." Francis says hi. "See you soon, Donnie." On the front of the postcard is a large mansion which was built at the turn of the century. The blurb on the back says Caleyville, Connecticut, home of the Dyer Bennett Institute. The Institute is a meeting place for people of great minds. Their research in hyperkinetics may one day take mankind to the stars. Founded in 1972. So the Titans take Francis to the hospital, then fly to Caleyville in the T-Jet. They land at an abandoned airfield 11 miles south of town. Meanwhile, Dr. Carla Van Horst senses their arrival with her mystical powers, and she alerts the other villains. Back at the edge of town, the Titans pass a sign that reads, "Welcome to Cayleyville. Population 6,558. Home of cows and contentment. Cayleyville Chamber of Commerce." As the Titans pass the sign, they spot a flaming figure flying high above where the Institute sits. Just then, a police car sees them and stops to see what's going on. They tell the officer, and he lets them go and drives away. He gets on the radio and reports what they said. They continue on, and after a while, a 17-year-old boy named Jeff La Liberty hurtles towards them on his 10-speed bike. His rapid pace and excitement had left him breathless. After he catches his breath, he goes into a fast-paced speech. The short version is that Jeff is a big fan of theirs. He actually owns some really useful surveillance gear, and he used it to overhear people at the Institute talking about killing Donnie. So the Titans head straight to the Institute, and the gate is still open. Thanks to the precognition of Dr. Van Horst, all the guards and villains have been alerted. So the Titans force their way in and are greeted by 15 guards. Batman, aka Dick Grayson, points at the guards and says, "Titans, go." So one by one, the Titans take them down. Cyborg uses sonic beam, Starfire shoots energy blasts, Changeling becomes a T-Rex, and of course, Batman takes these guys out with ease. Then three costume villains enter the fight. The Titans recognize two of them, Deathstroke the Terminator and the woman who attacked Francis Kane, but they've never seen the other man before. His costume looks like a motorcycle policeman's uniform gone crazy. He has a black and silver helmet, a blue leather uniform, black boots, and silver metallic bands across his upper arms and thighs. The woman is dressed in a light brown tabard with a flame design running down the front. Her sleeves and pants are amber yellow with flame designs at the wrists and ankles. She also wears demi boots the color of her tabard. They are all wearing medallions which allow them to teleport in and out of the Institute. When one medallion is touched, all of them are activated. These medallions were manufactured through the use of Carla Van Horst's occult skill. When a medallion is worn inside the Institute, it will teleport a wearer inside the gate room. Batman attacks Deathstroke the Terminator, and they fight one-on-one. Changeling and Cyborg attack Truncheon. Donna Troy and Starfire attack Prairie Fire. And for now, Jericho holds action. So starting with Batman versus Deathstroke, Batman goes first and needs to roll a 13 or better to hit because, like Captain America, Deathstroke is a super soldier. So his super soldier serum keeps him young, while Dick Grayson is in his mid-50s now and is starting to slow down with age. So the Dark Knight rolls a 4 and a 5, which is a miss. On Deathstroke's turn, he only needs to roll a 9 or better to hit. He rolls a 2 and an 8, which of course hits. And Deathstroke subs martial arts for his strength. And Batman takes 4 points of damage, only having 2 hit points left. Meanwhile, Cyborg hits Truncheon with 10 APs of Sonic Beam, rolling a 7 and an 8, doing 8 points of damage, which is exactly what he needed to knock the villain out. Donna Troy punches Prairie Fire, doing a whopping 36 points of damage, which is more than enough to knock out the villain. Donna says that was for Francis. Everyone else holds action, waiting to see what happens between Batman and Deathstroke. It's Batman's turn again. So as an automatic action, he subs a 10 AP Omni Gadget for the density increase power, which adds 10 points to his strength and body, but subtracts 5 points from his dexterity. For his dice action, he then subs Martial Artist for his dexterity. Then he rolls double 9s and then a 9 and a 6, which is 7 column shifts. So Deathstroke the Terminator gets knocked out. Starfire watches this and is particularly worried that Dick is going to bite off more than he can chew one day. But also, she loves how well he handles himself and can't help but feel in love with him. Cyborg, Dick Grayson, and Donna Troy search the bodies and, in doing so, touch the medallions. And all three of them are teleported into the gate room. Dr. Carla Van Horst is channeling the power of Raven through the body of Donald Allen to open a portal to the other dimension. So Donna Troy punches her out, interrupting the spell. Cyborg shoots Dr. Conrad Getson, knocking him out with a sonic beam, and Batman finds the metal cylinder that contains the spirit of Raven. He opens the small containment unit, and a white light swirls around the room, touching each Titan. It then folds in upon itself and vanishes. Each of the heroes has a good feeling inside, knowing that Raven's spirit is now free. Donna Troy uses her lasso on the cult of Sharishkagal, and she uses the lasso's control power to hypnotize them into forgetting how to summon Sharishkagal, thus sparing the world from a scenario where the Trigon level demon destroys everything. Dr. Carla Van Horst wakes up and has no memory of why Donald Allen is here. And since she is no longer using her sorcery power to neutralize his speed or make him sick anymore, he makes a quick recovery. No pun intended. And that brings us to the epilogue. When the Titans walk outside with Donnie, who's now in the male Kid Flash costume, they are once again greeted by Jeff Law Liberty, who asks how it went. They tell him, and he asks them if they've ever heard of those Make-A-Wish kids who are sick, and a celebrity pays him a visit. So Batman asks who he had in mind. A few minutes later, Jeff guides the Titans to the home of Janine Bender, who is the president of the Cayleyville Superhero Society, or the CSS for short. Janine has the absorption field and empathy powers, and her current spirit attribute is dangerously low due to proximity to everything that's been happening at the Dyer Bennett Institute, which her parents have wrongly concluded is quote unquote a bad case of the flu and shakes. Janine's condition was the result of combat on the spirit level, and she was drawn into the conflict between Raven and Dr. Van Horst. When the Titans get there, they wake her up and she is very excited to meet them, most of all, Batman. And of course, now that the adventure was over, Janine begins to improve. The Titans invite her to apply for membership down the road since she's a superpowered being. And for the Cayleyville Superhero Society, it was the best day ever. And that was it for this one. We enjoyed it. We hope you did too. If so, as always, smash like, subscribe, and comment. From all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.